Hello dear students of class 10th, welcome to geography class. I hope all of you are fit and healthy. Students, in this video, I shall be continuing with the 7th chapter from your geography book, that is Lifelines of National Economy. Students, in the last video, I gave you a brief introduction about railways. I told you that railways is the best alternative for transportation when you are traveling in group, when there are large number of people, when you are traveling together, and when you have to cover a long distance, when you have a long journey. Then for that purpose, railway is the most suitable alternative that is available, right? I told you that railways are used for multiple purposes. For example, first of all, for business purpose. It is in India. Indian Railway is the largest public sector undertaking from which huge profits are earned. Then for sightseeing, for pilgrimage, that is for worship purpose, and for several other purposes, for transportation of passengers as well as transportation of goods, railways are used. Alright. Now students, we will be continuing with railways and we will be moving to the next topic, that is distribution pattern of railways in India. We will see that in India how railways are distributed. Is it distributed evenly or unevenly? So, we will see the distribution pattern of railways in this video. Students, the distribution pattern of railways is influenced by several factors. Basically, I am going to explain you three factors because of which the distribution pattern is influenced or affected. The first one is physiographic factors. Now, what do you understand by physiographic? Physiographic means basically the geographic structure. For example, if it is a plain area, then very easily railway lines can be constructed, tracks can be laid down. So, in the plain area it is very easy to construct railway lines. So, you will find that in the plain area, most of the railway tracks are constructed. But if I talk about the hilly areas or the mountains, the Himalayas, then you will not find good number of trains. You will definitely find trains, but it is comparatively difficult to lay railway tracks in the hilly areas, in the Himalayas, in the mountainous region. So, basically in the plain region you will find more number of railways or more number of trains. So, first is the physiographic feature, that is the geographic structure. Now, the second factor is economic factors. Now, what is economic factors? See, if a particular place, if a particular region has more number of industries, more factories, a good amount of agriculture is also practiced, then definitely you will find that in those areas the concentration of trains will be more. Why? Because as I told you that railways are used for transportation of goods as well as passengers. Passengers also travel and goods are also transported from one city to another, from one region to another. So, if there will be more industries, let us suppose iron and steel industry, then you will definitely find railways, because with the help of railways iron and steel can be transported. Alright. For example, Punjab and Haryana, there we have sufficient quantity of wheat, rice and other products, other crops. So, there also you will find good number of trains, right. So, these are the economic factors, because this also helps in the growth and development of the economy, right. Then the third factor is the administrative factors. Now, what do you understand by administrative factors? See, let me explain you this with the help of an example. Let us talk about Delhi. Delhi is our political capital, right. Major decisions are taken. So, basically you will find that in Delhi you can find trains to all parts of the country, and very frequently you can find trains. But if I talk about a northeastern state, for example Manipur, then from Manipur definitely you will find trains, but not frequently. You will have to wait in order to find train from Manipur, but as compared to Delhi. But so Delhi being the political capital, so Delhi being the political capital, very easily you can find the concentration of trains to all parts of the country. Alright. So, these are the main factors that are responsible for the distribution pattern of railways. Alright. So, I hope this much is clear to everybody. Now, students, I will explain you area wise the distribution of railways, the distribution pattern of railways area wise. For example, in the northern plains, in the peninsular region, and in different parts, for example, desert area in the southern part. So, that way I will explain you the distribution of railways. So, let us start with the first one, that is northern plains. That means the northern side, Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, that side. Alright. So, students, if we talk about the northern plains, so in the northern plains, what kind of area is there? What kind of land is there? Plain area is there, right? So, plain area is there, and also the population is very high. If I talk about Punjab, Haryana, Chhattisgarh, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, then the population of these places is also very high. So, this will result in growth of railways or growth in railways. Why? Because if population will be more, if area is also very nice, then very easily railway tracks can be laid, the tracks can be easily constructed in those areas, right. So, in case of the northern plains, you will find concentration of more trains or railways, or very frequent trains you can find at those places. But students, there is one limitation of railways. Now, what is the limitation? See, India is the land of rivers. You will find several rivers in our country, right? Rivers are there. So, but see, if rivers will be there, then railway tracks have to be constructed to cross those rivers also. So, for that, a good number of bridges have to be constructed. So, this is one limitation, that if rivers will be there, then it will require more construction of bridges, which is a difficult task, and this is a challenge. Definitely one has to construct, and it is also constructed, but this is not an easy task, this is a difficult task. So, this is one limitation of railways, that it is very difficult to construct bridges on the rivers. So, I hope plain areas or the northern plains are clear to everybody. Now, let us talk about the peninsular region. Now, what do you understand by peninsular region? See, as you can see the map of India, see, you need to understand very carefully the places. You need to identify, you should be able to identify places. And how that can be done? That can only be done if you very frequently see the map of India. This is the only way to remember the places, to remember the states, to remember the cities, that very frequently you study the map. Alright. So, as we can see this map of India, so we are talking about the peninsular region. Now, what do you understand by a peninsular region? Peninsular region or area means the area that is covered with water on the three sides. So, that region is called as the peninsular region. For example, let us talk about the Western Ghats. If we talk about the Western Ghats, then basically hilly areas are there. So, in case of hilly areas, it is not very easy to lay the railway tracks. It is very difficult, but still tracks are laid. So, why it is difficult? Because tracks have to, why it is difficult? It is difficult because tracks have to be laid from gaps and tunnels. There are so many gaps, so many tunnels are there, and tracks have to be laid in those tunnels, in those gaps. So, this is one difficult task. But in spite of the difficult task, railway tracks are spread all over the country. Alright. Now let's move to the next area or next region, that is the Himalayan mountains. Now let us go to the northern side, the Himalayas. Now what do you think? Is it easy to construct railway tracks or it is difficult? Definitely students, it is very difficult to construct railway tracks, especially in the mountainous region in the Himalayas, and it is very much unfavorable. It is unfavorable for railway construction. This area, as we go towards the higher altitude, it is really very difficult to construct railways. Why? Because slopes are there. The weather is also not very much favorable. So it is difficult to construct the railway tracks. Students, if we talk about the Himalayan region, then in terms of population, it is not a very populated area. You will find sparse population in the Himalayan area. And since population is sparse and it is situated in high relief, that means altitude is also very high. And if population will be sparse, then definitely the economic opportunities will be less. If people will be less, then economic opportunities will be less. There will not be many industries, many factories. Agriculture work cannot go on very smoothly. Only few crops can be grown in those areas. All the crops cannot be grown. So opportunities are very less in these areas. So since opportunities are less, there is not sufficient economic growth. So as a result of which we can find low development of railways in the Himalayan region, in the Himalayan mountains. If people will be less, if economic opportunities will be less, if industries will be less, then definitely and automatically the development of railways will also be very much less or very low. So I hope points are clear related to the area. So I hope it is clear that in which area concentration of railways is high and in which area concentration of railways is low. So basically in the northern plain you will find the concentration of railways or railway tracks. So basically in the northern area you will find the concentration of railway tracks very high because of high population, as there are number of industries, number of factories, and agriculture work is also practiced over those places. And if we talk about the Himalayan region, then there it is very difficult to lay railway tracks because of the slopes, because of sparse population. So the development of railways in the Himalayan region is not very high, it is comparatively very low. Okay, alright. So I hope points related to the area or the distribution pattern is clear to everybody. Now students, we will be seeing the challenges that are faced by the railway. Now students, we will see the challenges that are faced by the railways. As I told you that there are two faces of a coin. If it has advantages, if it has merits, then it will definitely have limitations, it will definitely have loopholes. So we will see that what are the limitations or challenges that are faced by railways. So students, you can see a number of limitations are mentioned. So we will be discussing all the limitations one by one. So let's start with the first one. So students, it is very difficult to lay railway tracks in areas such as the first one, sandy plains of Rajasthan. Yes, it is very difficult. Why it is difficult in Rajasthan? Because the railway tracks will get submerged, it will go under the sand dunes. So that is why it is difficult to lay railway tracks in the sandy areas. Then second is the swamps of Gujarat. See, because of inundation, it is difficult to lay railway tracks. For example, run of Kutch, because the railway tracks will get submerged in the swamps. So that is why it is difficult to lay railway tracks. Then if I talk about the forested tracks of Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Odisha and Jharkhand. See, why it is difficult to lay railway tracks in the forested areas? Because these areas have rich flora, rich vegetation, forests are there, deep forests, dense forests are there, and in order to lay the railway tracks, the complete environment has to be disturbed, forests have to be cleared, the wildlife will get disturbed. So that is why it is difficult at these places to lay the railway tracks, because it will disturb the entire system, the entire wildlife, number of trees will be chopped, that will not be good for the environment. So that is why it is very difficult, which is a challenge. Then students, in the stretch of Sahyadri, it could be crossed only through gaps and passes. If I talk about the stretches of Sahyadri, then it is difficult to lay railway tracks because it could only be passed with the help of gaps and passes. So this is also one limitation. Then students, let's come to the next point. The next point is, many passengers travel without ticket. Now this is one of the greatest limitations or demerits of railways. Passengers have to passengers have to create self-awareness. They need to see, they not only have to see their personal benefit, but they have to see the benefit of the country. If they will travel without ticket, then the revenue of railways will be hampered, because there are a number of passengers that travel without ticket every day on daily basis. So this is not a good thing. This is actually cheating. This is actually a crime which needs to be stopped, and this can only be stopped when one decides to stop it or one decides to prevent it. So this is one important limitation of railways that the railways is facing. Now students, let's come to the third point, the third limitation, that is, theft and damaging railway property still continues. See, since it is not our private property, so we enjoy doing. So since it is not our personal property, not our private property, so many people, they enjoy damaging the railway property. They steal the iron, they steal the bedding, the iron that is there in the trains, they try to remove that, they try to remove that chain, the bedding. So this has to be stopped. One has to be self-aware. One needs to understand that these things are not good, and this will ultimately result in hampering the revenue of the nation. So we are doing cheating with the nation, that should be stopped. So self-awareness should be there. People have to understand themselves that this is not a good thing. This is actually a crime. Alright. So this is also one loophole or limitation of railways. And the last point, fourth point, unnecessarily chain pulling. See, people enjoy pulling chain. Definitely chain pulling is there for our sake, so that in case of any emergency, chain can be pulled. But some people, they are taking undue advantage of it, and out of fun, out of enjoyment, they are pulling chain, which really causes a lot of delay. Alright. So this is actually a crime, and punishment is also there. One can go to prison for this. So this has to be stopped, this unnecessary chain pulling. So these are the limitations or challenges that are faced by railways. So I hope all the points related to railways are clear to everybody. Students, in the next video I shall be continuing with the mode of transportation, that is land, and in land I will be discussing the third classification of it, that is pipelines. Till then, thank you so much. I hope points are clear to everybody. Stay connected and revise your lessons well. Thank you so much.